is that really the view of the opponents?
No, it's not. Maintaining English, yeah, that's great. Nobody, you talk to any bilingual educator, anybody who's involved with bilingual education, they want the kids to learn English. That is not, we're not trying to keep them from learning English. Now, as far as a multilingual society, multilingual culture, multilingual world that we live in, we need to know that. We need to learn that.
Well, why not teach it?
We are teaching it. That's exactly what we're doing. We are teaching the Spanish language. Yes, some kids come in, we say buenos dias, como están, all this stuff. That's great. We do that. We also teach English. We are teaching English. Now, the programs that you alluded to earlier, where they were pulled out and were able to learn English and were put in an English class, the one that you alluded to, they didn't redesignate anybody. They did not redesignate anyone.
I have another question.
How was it that, how were they prepared? How were they prepared not to go into another English class? They did not redesignate anyone.
And the Alice Callahan kids from 9th Street School that you're talking about, those are the children we're talking about that you harmed, that you hurt because they were not, they are the ones that scored the lowest on the exams.
Alice Callahan's position is that she's a proponent of 227. Right. She says that these kids need to be taught English and they're being delayed that. So.
But the difference, I don't know who he's speaking to about retaining the culture, because the parents that we have worked with, and we work with a lot of parents throughout California and throughout Texas of children who are limited English proficient. Guess what they want? They want their children to learn math. They want their children to learn English. They are not worried about their children working in the garment industry. They're worried about preparing their child to be doctors and lawyers and getting into college. It infuriates me to no end when I hear the proponents of Proposition 227 set the standard at a garment industry. That's what you continue to hear. These children should not be working at a garment industry. That's a given. These children should be doctors and lawyers, but if they're not provided the math and the science, if they are prohibited and denied for an entire academic year, they cannot catch up. That is not equality. We're not talking about here. They framed the question as Spanish only. We have Asian bilingual classes. We have a wonderful Armenian bilingual program. All these programs are intended to teach children English, but advance them academically.
So let's get, I want to go back to the cost here. Now, the one model that I've read about has been the model in Orange County, where they have moved to a full immersion program similar in nature, at least in the reading, to what 227 proposes. And what does that experience look like? Have you looked at it, Jose?
No, I have not. I'm not.
All we know is that the teachers have certainly been leaving the school district, that parents have pulled their children out of the school district because they know the harm that will cause in placing these children in these classes. We don't hear them talking about all the over 300 parents who have to pull their children out of public schools because their children are not being taught the academic instruction.
What do you hear, Henry?
I hear that whenever there's, like you say, chaos and the problem, that problem exists because people don't put their whole hearts into a program. And I think when you have
they haven't done to the bilingual program.
No, you have done this.
haven't done
teachers,
to the bilingual program.
Teachers right now are not willing. They say, we're going to, you know, I get into my room and I close that door and I want to do what I want to do. The problem that we see now is that when the students begin to know that they're going to be in that class and they have X number of months or a year to learn what has to be learned, you know, you'll begin to see an improvement. Why? Because it's done in English. It's not going to take that length of time to move these kids into English only, since they're already from day one beginning to study that in English. That is critical to be able to analyze the nuances of the language. If these kids miss that, and they miss those 3 or 4 vital years of learning this, when are they going to get it? They're sure not going to get it in junior high, because there they do the same thing. I've known kids, many kids, hundreds of kids that have been in this country for 5 and 6 years that still can't read or write English well enough to be put into classes where they can absorb the math and the science. She talks about academic advancement. What academic advancement do you have for young kids that are studying in the first year immersion in English? It's basic language acquisition. You don't start teaching calculus at that age group, but I'm telling you this, and I understand this very, very closely, that if you teach these kids in Spanish sufficiently long enough, when will the transition period come across where they learn English? It doesn't come across. And when it finally does, they're too far behind.
Let me give you an analogy real quick. And this is talking to some people. About 10, 15 years ago, they came out with this problem with science. We don't have enough women in science. Women cannot get in science. Now, it would have been ludicrous to get little girls into science and say, you know what, you guys aren't doing it. You're not learning the science. You're not getting that through. It would have been ludicrous
to stop science, to say,
you know what, you're not doing it. You're not going to learn English, you're not going to learn math, you're not going to learn health, you're not going to do anything else. Get into a classroom and spend 180 days, and that's when we're going to get you up to par with the rest of the kids in your class, and they would have been a grade level behind. Now, nobody in this country would have gone for a proposition. Now, in essence, that's what you're trying to do to the kids. You are saying, forget math, forget science, forget health. We are going to teach you this particular subject because I'm sorry, you just can't learn it any other way. And we're telling you, we know what you're doing. We're going to do it this way, and that's it. It would have been teaching kids science in one particular methodology, not the teacher doing their lesson.
You want to teach that girl science, you teach them
And we're going to
science.
wrap after this comment, so I'm going to give you a chance to have the last comment, so go ahead.
No, I'm just saying this analogy. There's nothing wrong with a person knowing, like soccer. If he knows soccer, he wants to come to the United States. He can't play soccer because as a high school, so he wants to get into high school football. Obviously, his knowledge of soccer, you know, he's a senior or a high school student, his knowledge of soccer will help. We here hire kids to kick the ball for goals because they're good soccer kickers. And then he's going to transfer a lot of these traits into what he already knows, the physical ability, the running ability, the kicking ability. But let's say this student comes to us, he doesn't know anything about soccer as far as playing it. See, my proponents think that
I'm going to have to wrap here, Henry.
that it's best to do what? It's best to teach them soccer for 2 years in order to learn American football. No, put them right in American football.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end of this particular edition, so we'll have to wait till June 2nd to see how this works out. But as our viewers, you can see this issue is a live issue, and you're going to have to like sort it out for yourself, and I would say vote your conscience on this one. Today's program will be rebroadcast over this and numerous other channels, including the California channel. Watch for days and times at the end of the program. Be sure to join us again on Tuesday, June 2nd at 7 p.m. And thank you for joining us today, and have a good evening.